In the gentle cradle of dawn, the scholar's garden lies wrapped in a hush older than memory. The first threads of light slip silently across curved tiled roofs, catching in the folds of willow leaves and illuminating the fine mist that hovers over the lotus pond. No sound dares disturb the silence, save the occasional chirp of a magpie or the soft rustle of bamboo. Each leaf glistens with dew. Each blade of grass stretches toward the sky with a grace that belongs only to this hour. Time here moves not in seconds, but in sensations. In the coolness of flagstone paths, in the slow unraveling of shadows. But from within, it is a world unto itself. In the fragrance of moss after a humid summer night. It winds past koi ponds fringed with reeds, over small wooden bridges, beneath canopies of pine and wadong trees, and through moon gates that frame scenes like paintings. Every element, rock, water, path, and plant is chosen to evoke natural harmony. There are no grand gestures here, only quiet balance. The scholar, our silent companion, has not yet stirred from his quarters, but already the garden begins to awaken. From above, the garden is no more than a modest walled enclosure, nestled at the edge of a larger estate. The main path meanders, never direct, inviting the visitor to slow their steps. Some served in government. Others withdrew from the world to study, write, and seek harmony in solitude. Our scholar has chosen the latter, a deliberate retreat from ambition into a life of cultivation. These philosophies are not mutually exclusive here. They weave through daily life like interlaced threads. Nearby, a tea pavilion rests on a stone platform, shaded by plum trees. In the center of it all, a lotus pond mirrors the sky, its water still save for the occasional ripple from a curious fish. He ties his long hair with a simple cord and pauses by the open lattice window to look out at the mist rolling through the trees. To the east, a study pavilion overlooks a quiet stream, its wooden shutters open to let in the breeze. The design is not accidental. It is born of a philosophy where structure follows spirit. And each day, the scholar polishes that mirror through simple, deliberate acts. A pair of sparrows flits from branch to branch in the plum tree. A dragonfly skims across the water's surface, pausing on a lotus bud just beginning to open. This is not a space built for spectacle. It is a space cultivated for reflection. Somewhere in the distance, the faint clang of a temple bell echoes through the hills. The kind of sounds that slip past language and speak directly to the spirit. A Confucian symbol of resilience. The empty courtyard? A Buddhist space for stillness. On it rests a small stack of books. The Book of Songs, the Analects, a hand-copied volume of Tang poetry. Not for others to hear, but for the vibration of the words in the body. A half-filled scroll lies on the side, bearing the inked imprint of a calligraphy verse. Still water reflects the moon, unmoved by the drifting clouds. He is not bound by clocks or summoned by meetings. He begins to sweep the stone path slowly, carefully, his movements quiet and graceful. His joys are in the plum blossoms, his sorrows in the misty pool, his questions etched in winding paths, his answers hidden in the silence between lines. His days are shaped instead by light, by the seasons, and by a quiet hunger for understanding. Inside his quarters, the scholar rises slowly. There is no rush. Each motion is an act of intention, a letting go of distraction. The scholar is not preparing the garden for guests. He is preparing himself to receive the morning. The scholar pours a cup of warm water, not yet tea, and steps onto the stone steps that lead to the pond. He wraps himself in plain robes, woven from light cotton for summer's warmth. In Ming China, a scholar's life was one of quiet discipline. He seeks alignment with heaven, with nature, and with his own heart. He does not seek acclaim. The garden reflects this inward turn. It is designed according to the principles of the three teachings: Confucianism, Taoism, and Buddhism. From Confucianism comes ritual, respect for tradition, and the pursuit of moral character. From Taoism comes fluidity, reverence for nature, and the ideal of wu-wei non-action, or effortless action. From Chan Buddhism comes mindfulness, emptiness, and quiet contemplation. This trinity forms the soul of the garden. The rock that appears precariously placed, it reflects Taoist spontaneity. The pine tree that stands evergreen even in winter? The garden, then, is a mirror of the mind. Outside, life begins to stir. A breeze carries the earthy perfume of whetstone and jasmine. Insects chirp from the thickets. A garden is not silent. It is filled with the kind of sounds that calm rather than clutter. The scholar steps into the courtyard, holding a broom made of fine twigs. The sweeping is not just for cleanliness, it is for clarity. This is not menial labor. It is ritual. The dust of yesterday is cleared. The present is made visible. He sits, lights a stick of sandalwood incense, and begins to read aloud in a whisper. As the path clears, so too does the mind. Sunlight now floods the room in golden pools. Each word was to be tasted, each line digested slowly like tea. Inside the study pavilion, the wooden desk has already been arranged for the day. The scholar opens the shutters. In Ming literati tradition, reading was never rushed. This reading is not for productivity. It is for presence. Each rock, tree, and waterway reflected some facet of the soul. A Ming dynasty scholar's garden was never mere landscape. It was biography. To walk the garden is to walk through the scholar's heart. Even the smallest elements, a moss-covered stone, a bamboo grove, a weathered door, carry layers of meaning. A koi stirs below, a heron lifts into the air, a leaf falls, slow as thought. And so the garden becomes not only a refuge, but a companion. The sun now sits above the roof tiles, casting lattice shadows along the corridor. He gazes at the still surface. The garden is awake, the scholar is present, and the day begins not with movement, but with stillness, not with urgency, but with awareness. Before words, before thought, there is the steam of water rising, the breath of leaves unfolding. The air is thick with stillness. Outside the scholar's study, a small pavilion rests beside the lotus pond, raised on a platform of smooth stone. Its wooden frame is simple dark beams, tiled eaves, and low railings embraced by the curling limbs of an old plum tree. This is where the tea ritual will unfold, not in a tea room behind walls, but in the open breath of the garden, among birdsong and swaying bamboo. The sun has risen just enough to light the rim of the pavilion. He bows, not to an altar, but to the space itself, to its emptiness, to its potential. He kneels with fluid ease. His body knows this dance. Its floor, swept clean, smells faintly of aged timber. A mat awaits, unrolled with quiet care. Upon it, a low tray, a small brazier, a kettle, and cups no larger than a child's eye. Nothing more is needed. Nothing else is wanted. The scholar steps into the space slowly, his robe brushing the wooden planks. Before him lie the tools of tea. Each is chosen with thought. The brazier is made of unglazed clay, squat and plain. The kettle, of blackened iron, speaks of use. The cups, thin porcelain with a pale celadon glaze, rest on a bamboo tray. He lights the charcoal in the brazier with slow, practiced movements. The flames catch, small and blue. A wisp of split bamboo, a scoop of carved gourd, a cloth for wiping. The fire crackles softly. Outside, a breeze passes through the bamboo grove. A pair of swallows chatter and sweep low over the pond. The scholar does not stir. He waits for the precise moment, not boiling, but singing. Each object has been handled hundreds of times, and yet each is greeted anew as if it were alive, as if it had a role to play in this gentle unfolding. A whisper of grass, a memory of rain, a breath of mountain air. This is not just tea. It is landscape. It is season. It is time, compressed and preserved. The scholar opens a slender wooden box. Inside, nestled in silk, are pale green tea leaves, delicate, twisted, and dry as parchment. These are not leaves bought in bulk, nor plucked casually. He swirls it gently and empties them into a waste bowl nearby. This is not waste, he reminds himself. It is offering giving the water back to the earth, acknowledging that not all is meant for use. These are spring-picked longing leaves, harvested from a hillside, misted with morning dew, dried under the watchful gaze of a friend. He brings them close to his nose and inhales. He places a small amount in a shallow porcelain bowl and sets it aside. Then he turns to the kettle. From a glazed jug, he pours clear well water into the iron vessel, held on the tongue, swallowed slowly. A scent that fills the chest, not the nose. There is no bitterness, only softness. Astringency, yes, but like a reminder, not a reprimand. A scent that says, "Be still. You are here." Then, with both hands, he pours the hot water slowly over the leaves. A thin stream arcs from kettle to porcelain, precise and unwavering. The ritual begins not with tea, but with fire and water. There is no rush. The scholar waits. He watches the kettle with a gaze that neither strains nor wanders. A carp breaks the water's surface with a soft plop. A blossom loosened by the breeze drifts into the pavilion and lands beside the tea tray. He observes the color of pale gold with hints of green, He inhales. Then, finally, he drinks. As minutes pass, the water begins to breathe first small bubbles that gather at the edges, then a shimmer across the surface, and finally, the first whisper of steam. He smells the scent of earth warming beneath the sun. This, too, is part of the ritual. The tea must cool slightly. The leaves must settle. Only then does he lift the first cup with both hands and bring it to his lips. First potential, then fullness, then fading. In this waiting, there is no boredom, only presence. The tea is no longer sharp or fresh, it is wise. It is aged. He pours the hot water into the cups not to drink, but to warm them. He wipes each cup with a soft cloth, and holds one briefly in his palm, feeling the heat against his skin. For memory, he speaks aloud a verse from Lu Tong, the Tang dynasty poet. The cup, now warm, is ready to receive. Like the heart, emptied of haste. Like the mind, prepared for clarity. The ceremony draws to a close, not with finality, but with fading like a calligraphy stroke, tapering into the blankness of the page. He folds the cloth. He douses the flame with a breath and a bowl of water. The scholar lifts the scoop and deposits a modest pinch of tea leaves into each cup. The dry leaves rustle like silk moths. The water swirls, the leaves rise and fall. He watches a leaf spin on the surface of the pond. He listens to the wind. He does not name these things. He simply receives them. They do not dance in frenzy. They unfurl. Slowly, gently, the fragrance releases into the air green, floral, and faintly toasted. He waits again. He does not sip immediately. A single sip. He closes his eyes. The warmth moves through his throat, into his chest, like sunlight spreading into a shadowed room. Tea, here, is not for stimulation. It is for awareness. As the scholar continues, pouring and drinking, he reflects silently on the teachings that echo through his daily ritual. From the Taoists, he learns to yield, to let the leaves reveal themselves without force. From the Buddhists, he learns to be present, to treat each moment of the ritual as sacred, not because it is rare, but because it is now. From the Confucians, he learns respect, that even the smallest task, if done with sincerity, is a way to cultivate virtue. Each cup is a lesson. Each breath between sips is a teacher. The scholar does not reach for conversation. He does not read. He simply drinks, with the garden watching, with the morning unfolding. As he pours the second infusion, the garden becomes participant. A cicada sings from the branches. He does not brush it away. He watches it. Its presence is perfect, its timing divine. He lifts his gaze and sees the sky, open and pale. He hears the faint toll of a distant bell. The tea is not only in the cup, it is in the air. It is in the light. By the third pour, the leaves have fully opened. Their flavor softens, their spirit mellows. He sips with reverence, honoring the fact that even leaves, like people, pass through stages. But there is beauty in each, especially in the fading, especially in what remains. The scholar does not chase novelty. He returns, instead, to simplicity. He sets down the cup and retrieves a small scroll. The first bowl moistens my lips and throat. The second shatters all my loneliness. The third cleanses my mind. The fourth leaves me light, and the fifth bowl lifts me to the realm of the immortals. He smiles faintly. He needs no sixth bowl. The charcoal embers are nearly white. The kettle hums low. The scholar gathers the cups, rinses them with warm water, and sets them to dry. The space is returned to stillness, as though nothing had occurred, as though everything had. The scholar remains seated, not to rest, not to sleep, but to breathe. The tea has opened a space within him, a spaciousness without walls. For in the truest spirit of tea, nothing must be done. One only needs to be. The ink is still. The brush hovers. The page, empty and silent, waits for the soul to speak. Its windows are wide and open, framed by lattice that catch the morning breeze. This is the scholar's study pavilion, a space not for display, but for return. Beyond the koi pond, past a moon gate carved with cloud motifs, stands a modest structure beneath a tall ginkgo tree. Its roof is layered with weathered gray tiles. The interior is spare yet alive with detail. A long wooden desk of deep sandalwood, burnished by years of touch. Shelves bearing rolled scrolls, hand-bound books, inkstones, and brush stands. A woven mat for sitting, frayed slightly at the edge. A single plum blossom in a vase. The scent of sandalwood lingers faintly, mingled with the sharp aroma of dried ink. Light pours in through the eastern window, pooling across the scroll that waits, blank and untouched. Upon the desk, the instruments of calligraphy are assembled with care. Brushes of varying sizes hang from a bamboo rack, their tips made from wolf, goat, or rabbit hair, each chosen for the kind of stroke it will yield. An inkstone, carved from dark slate, holds a shallow well of water. A solid ink stick, black and smooth, rests beside it. Rolls of paper, some thin as silk, others coarser, lie bound with silk cords. It is a space where thought will become motion, where silence will gain form. These are not tools of haste. They are companions. Each bears the wear of time, the mark of study, the intimacy of attention. The grinding is not a chore. It is a meditation. Lifts it. Watches a single drop fall back into the well. The scholar bows before his desk, not out of superstition, but in reverence for what is to come. The page before him is not mere paper. Slowly, in gentle circles. The motion is steady, rhythmic like a tide lapping the shore, but with presence. He waits until the hand, the heart, and the moment are one. The water darkens gradually, turning from pale smoke to deep river black. There is only the sound of stone meeting stone, water meeting pigment. He lifts the ink stick and begins to grind it against the damp stone. This act may take minutes, sometimes longer. But he does not rush. With each motion, the breath slows. The heart quiets. The world outside fades. This is the threshold between stillness and creation. He dips the brush into the ink. Then the brush hovers above the paper. There is a long pause for mountain. For to understand the character is to understand what it names. To write silence well, one must know silence. For water, an arrogant one, strokes too bold. Only the calm hand could write with strength and humility. For heart, not out of doubt, but out of listening. The scholar listens not with ears, it is gesture. Though centuries old, breathes with life, its strokes light as willow leaves, its structure fluid like water. He joins a lineage. His brush walks where sages have walked. His ink flows in rivers long mapped. A bird lands on the roof, tilts its head, and flies off again. To hesitate is to lose spirit, but himself, but to converse. They will dry soon, and the moment will vanish. He dips the brush again, with more decisiveness now. This time he does not copy, he composes. The scholar moves with fluid certainty. His wrist light, calligraphy was more than writing. It was the art of the inner self. Style, his brush thickens where he feels intensity, thins where he breathes out. Structure, he smiles gently. It is not for display. It is not for anyone. It is for the moment that produced it. When the paper absorbs unevenly, he adjusts. There is no frustration here. A cloud drifts across the sky, weightless and slow. Only observation, only the quiet invitation to refine. Spacing all mirrored the writer's temperament and state of mind. His mind anchored. It is breath. It is philosophy. Only then does the brush touch down. He begins with the 8 basic strokes, the foundation of every Chinese character. The horizontal, the vertical, the leftward sweep, the rightward flick. The hook, the rising stroke, the curve, the dot, but about truth. Each stroke is more than line. To rush is to distort. Each character takes form slowly. He repeats the same character again and again, not to perfect it, but to understand it. In the Ming dynasty, an anxious hand produced jittery lines. And so the scholar uses the brush to study not just text, when the ink runs dry too soon. Each session reveals something new, not about technique. From a scroll tucked behind his desk, the scholar unrolls the work of Wang Shizi, the sage of calligraphy. The flowing script, he copies the lines carefully not to mimic. Still water reflects the quiet heart. A single brush reveals the way. The act of copying is not mindless repetition. It is a dialogue between ages, a communion across time. In this moment, the scholar feels less alone. The brush is set down. The scholar steps away from the desk and opens the window wider. The scent of pine drifts in. He sips from a cup of cooled tea left on the sill. He breathes deeply, watching the steam curl toward the rafters. This pause is not an end. It is a breath between lines, a letting go before returning. The scroll on the desk glistens slightly, ink still wet. Characters bloom like black orchids. But for now, it remains alive and shimmering. The scholar selects a fresh scroll. The poem is his own, born from the morning stillness. Bamboo shadows stir across the floor. A single leaf falls without sound. I write not for fame, nor to store, but to feel where silence is found. Each character is deliberate, curved by mood. He signs his name with a small flourish, and places his seal-red cinnabar ink pressed against the final stroke. The page is complete, not perfect, but whole. He lifts the scroll, examines it once more, then gently rolls it and ties it with a cord. Another scroll joins the shelf. Another breath added to the house. The scholar cleans his brush, empties the inkstone, folds the cloth. Each motion is part of the return. The study is once again still. Before leaving, the scholar lingers at the window. The ginkgo tree sways in the sunlight. Cicadas hum in the distance. He does not speak. He does not need to. What he needed to say, he has already written, not just in ink, but in intention. Not just on paper, but in presence. Calligraphy, he knows, is not about words. It is about the space between them. And today, that space has been honored. No path leads straight. No step is hurried. The garden reveals itself only to the patient. The scroll has been rolled. The ink has dried. And now the scholar rises not to return indoors, but to step into his garden. He walks without purpose. Not aimlessly, but freely. His sandals make soft sounds against the stone path, their rhythm slow, like the turning of pages in a book long loved. In this chapter of the day, the garden becomes both setting and script. The path curves, bends, and loops, not to confuse, but to invite attention. The scholar moves slowly, placing each foot with quiet intention. These are scholars' rocks, not ornaments, but meditations in stone. In a Chinese scholar's garden, the path teaches patience. It teaches presence. There is no destination. A weathered stone walkway meanders through a stand of bamboo. Its path is uneven by design. To his right, a rock formation rises from a bed of moss. Its twisted, jagged edges resemble mountain peaks lost in mist. A single dragonfly skims the surface, trailing circles behind it. Their crevices are like the folds of thought. Their shadows suggest mystery. Some resemble crouching beasts, others crumbling towers. Each one invites pause. The more they resembled something unknowable, the more worthy they were of study. Or is it a kind of kinship, born from watching with care? Their colors, orange, white, gold, move like brushstrokes on silk. He sees in them a lesson, how to move without haste, how to inhabit the water without disturbing it. Around each corner, a new scene emerges, not grand, but subtle. A straight path offers everything at once. A winding path offers it in time. In the Ming dynasty, these rocks were prized not for symmetry, but for strangeness. The scholar stops before one such rock. He does not speak. He only looks. His silence allows the stone to speak back. The path brings him to the edge of the pond. Its surface is still, interrupted only by the graceful motion of koi weaving beneath lily pads. There, a moon gate frames a miniature courtyard. Each turn feels like entering a painting. Each step, an invitation to slow the breath. Sunlight dances across the water, filtered through the drooping arms of willow trees. Autumn whispers in gold. The pines remain stoic, unchanging. The willow's fingers trail the surface of the pond, heavy with morning dew, The scholar kneels by the pond's edge. He watches the fish. He recalls a line from Zhuangzi. The fish swim freely in the water. How happy they are. Is it arrogance to assume we know the minds of fish? The light dims. The air cools. Pine needles blanket the ground in soft rust, muffling every step. The scholar does not answer the question. He only smiles. He rises and continues along the garden path. This is intentional. In Chinese garden design, the principle of hide and reveal is sacred. Here, a stand of bamboo conceals the view ahead. A garden is a scroll that must be read with the feet. As he walks, the scholar observes the language of the trees. This is the music of the empty valley, the sound of solitude. Wind is not mere air, it is breath, spirit, motion. To hear it is to hear the Tao. It is symmetry. A ginkgo's fan-shaped leaves have begun to pale at the edges. The garden borrows the hill, the sky, even the clouds, to create a sense of infinite space within its bounds. It appears as if placed deliberately, its silhouette framed by the pavilion roof and willow branches. Every plant is chosen not just for beauty, but for meaning. The pine stands for resilience evergreen, even in hardship. It is empty, save for a bench of rough stone, a trickling fountain, and a few fallen leaves. The sound of water echoes softly off the walls. In Chinese aesthetics, emptiness is not absence. It is potential. It is clarity. It is peace. A small bird emerges, a wagtail, black and white, bobbing with every step. It pauses near the scholar's feet, then flutters up to a branch. The bamboo for humility bending, never breaking. The plum blossom for endurance blooming through winter. The lotus for purity rising unsullied from muddy waters. The scholar walks beneath them as one might walk through a library each tree, a volume of silent wisdom. The path leads him into a shaded grove of ancient pine trees. Here, the wind begins to sing. A carp leaps in the pond, splashing once before vanishing again. It moves through the trees like a musician through strings, coaxing tones that rise and fall, merge and separate. The garden, he knows, is not something to complete. It is something to return to. The scholar closes his eyes. He listens not with the intent to analyze, but to receive. In Taoist thought, nature speaks in gestures, not words. A rustle in the underbrush. Elsewhere, a cicada hums from the high branches. A squirrel darts across a stone bridge. Life teems, but does not intrude. The scholar does not name them. He only acknowledges their presence with a bowed head. He thinks of a line from a Tang poem. I shared a moment with a bird. It knew I meant no harm. This is not sentiment. Through a gap in the bamboo, the scholar sees a distant hill beyond the garden wall. This is borrowed scenery, an artful illusion. Though the scholar remains in his garden, he sees the world beyond. Though he is enclosed, he feels expansive. In this, too, is wisdom. Limitation gives rise to vision. The path concludes at a small, square courtyard. The scholar sits. There is nothing more to do. This space is void, not barren, but full of invitation. He breathes deeply. The walk is over. And yet it continues. For the garden, he knows, is never truly separate from the mind. It grows where attention is planted. It flowers where stillness is allowed. As the sun climbs higher, a light breeze stirs the air. Shadows shift, leaves tremble. The scholar stands slowly. He does not look back. In the end, the meandering path has led not to a destination, but to presence. And in that, it has done its work. Words come not to explain the world, but to breathe it gently into being. The sun, now past its zenith, casts a softer light across the garden. Shadows lengthen beneath curved eaves. The stillness deepens, not as silence, but as a presence that holds everything in its hand. The morning's movement has slowed, ripening into a kind of suspended peace. Cicadas drone in the distance. Dragonflies shimmer above the pond, like sparks in the air. It is the hour for poetry. Its trunk leans ever so slightly, shaped by wind and memory, not because time demands it, but because the scholar, sitting beneath the willow, feels the whisper of verse rise like mist from the pond. Its drooping limbs weep softly. Its roots grasp deeply. Its beauty is never loud, always swaying, always yielding. To sit beneath one is to sit within memory itself. The willow stands at the pond's edge, tall and patient, its thin branches trailing in the water like brushstrokes left unfinished. In Chinese poetry, the willow is a symbol of grace, departure, and longing. Willows are often planted near farewell pavilions, where friends part with poems and wine. The scholar settles beneath its canopy, where the shadows move with the breeze, and opens his scroll. A tiny stone holds down one corner of the paper, so it doesn't flutter with the wind. In his lap rests a simple piece of paper, unrolled over a flat board. His ink brush rests in a small porcelain dish. He does not begin writing immediately. Instead, he listens to the sound of water lapping, to the leaves overhead, to the tremble of air that passes through the garden like a forgotten line of verse. Poetry is not forced, it emerges. Like tea, it must steep. The scholar observes, and in doing so, participates. His gaze is not fixed, but open. He watches. A koi slowly glide beneath a lotus leaf. A cicada molt clinging to a tree's bark. A plum blossom, long fallen, crumbling softly into soil. A cloud passing behind the thin veil of willow branches. Each image is a fragment, a moment caught in the flow of impermanence. But to the poet, each is a door into the eternal. He takes up his brush. He writes slowly. His characters curve with the same rhythm as the willows sway. Beneath the willow, midday leans. A koi forgets the world of reeds. One leaf trembles, falls unseen, and joins the pond's remembered dreams. He pauses, rereads, nods slightly. The poem is not long. It does not try to impress. It simply offers what was seen distilled, softened, and arranged like stones in a garden path. Beside him lies a scroll of Tang poems Li Bai, Wang Wei, Du Fu. The scholar reads a line aloud. A spring breeze does not stay. They sit in a circle, cups of wine raised, trading verses in turns. This tradition, known as Yaji, elegant gathering, was a cornerstone of literati life. It scatters like dreams at dawn. Another responds with a verse. A third paints a single ink bamboo stalk on silk. The fourth plucks the Guqin. He smiles at its simplicity. Then, in the margin of his own poem, he responds, on the last day, they drank beneath this same tree. His friend wrote, if dreams are wind, then let me be the dust they lift. This dialogue with the past is not imitation, it is communion. Each poet is a companion beneath the willow. In the scholar's mind, the quiet garden fills with friends, fellow poets, painters, tea masters. Laughter ripples like koi in the pond. Someone sets a topic, the sound of wind and bamboo. Though alone in body, the scholar feels their presence like warmth on his back. He returns his gaze to the willow. Its movements are never hurried, never still. They express something without language. It is a trace of this day, a record of quiet noticing. In poetry, the willow often represents parting, unspoken love, or memory softened by time. He leans back, eyes tracing the shapes of branches overhead. The scholar reflects on a friend who once left for the capital. The cinnabar mark dries slowly in the warm air, like a sun settling behind hills. The world is grace. I dare not break a branch of willow, for even the leaves lean to farewell. That friend never returned, but the line did. The poem lives in the wind. The scholar writes a final couplet to close the afternoon's work. The garden breathes, I do not chase. My brush is slow. He places his red seal at the bottom corner. The scroll is not art for others. It is not meant for display. The scholar folds the paper lightly and places it beneath a stone to dry. The wind picks up, shaking the willow in waves. Leaves fall and scatter on the path beside him. He does not gather them. He watches them land. Each leaf is a final line, each shadow a stanza. He exhales. As the sun begins its slow arc toward the west, the garden remains, cradling the poem, the willow, and the stillness of one who took the time to see, not to explain, not to solve, only to witness. And in that, the poet becomes part of the garden itself. In the hush between each note, the heart returns to itself. The sun dips gently toward the west. The garden cools, and light thickens into amber. Crickets begin their slow rhythm in the grass. Leaves curl slightly on their stems, stirred by a quiet, steady breeze. Here, there is no pond, no poetry scrolls, no teacups. Only a simple bench, a wooden table, and a single instrument. Its color is deep like riverstone, flecked faintly with gold where fingers have passed again and again. Within the scholar's home lies a small walled courtyard open to the sky, shaded by vines that climb along brick. Each note emerges from silence and returns to it, the Guqin. He bows slightly, not to the instrument, but to the act itself, to the hours, the breath, the lineage. Laid upon the table is a 7-stringed zither, centuries old, its lacquered surface worn smooth by time. The Guqin is unlike any other instrument. It is not meant for performance. It is meant for presence. Its music is not loud nor complex. Its value lies not in virtuosity, but in subtlety. Each sound is soft, like wind brushing silk. To play the Guqin is not to entertain. It is to listen inwardly. The scholar kneels before the table. His hands rest lightly on its surface, feeling the coolness of lacquer, the slight indentations along the strings. He lifts the silk cover from the Guqin. There are no frets, no fingerboards. Only string, nail, and tone. He tunes the strings one by one. Gong, the earth tone. Shang, the clarity of water. The piece is called Liu Shui, an ancient composition inspired by a stream winding through rocks. Jiao, the sprouting of wood. Zi, the fire of emotion. Yu, the gentleness of wind. 2 additional notes deepen the scale, completing a universe of sound. His ears are attuned not to frequency alone, but to feeling to whether the string speaks rightly to the room's silence. He begins to play. His right hand plucks, his left hand presses and glides, coaxing out a melody so soft it might be mistaken for memory. The notes begin spaced apart, like droplets. Then, gradually, they gather speed, mimicking the rush of water. But even in motion, they never lose their calm. The Guqin does not force the stream. It follows it. Each motion of the scholar's hand is slow, deliberate. His wrist circles, his fingers flick and glide. There is no rush to reach the next note. In Guqin philosophy, what is not played is as important as what is. The silence between tones, the resonance, the pause, the fading echo carries the soul of the piece. The music does not fill the air. It touches it, briefly, lovingly. It is less like speaking, more like breathing. Then lower notes, soft and sustained, like a question hanging unanswered in the air. The Guqin has been played for over 3,000 years. It has touched the hands of sages, poets, monks, and emperors. Confucius himself was said to find solace in its tones. In the Ming dynasty, it was the symbol of the true gentleman, the scholar who cultivated stillness, who refused ambition, who chose refinement over noise. Its sound was thought to harmonize the player with heaven. The scholar, in playing, joins this lineage not as a performer, but as a participant. After playing the structured piece, the scholar begins to improvise. His fingers wander across the strings with freedom. He listens not only to the Guqin, but to the courtyard, the rustling vine, the far-off call of a dove, the hush of wind. Each sound becomes part of the composition, each mood a note. He plays a series of harmonic tones light and ethereal like moonlight passing through water. The vines sway gently, brushing the wall like applause given by the world itself. He does not ask, "Is it good?" He allows the silence to expand to hold the shape of the music that once filled it. He asks, "Is it true?" The Guqin reveals the scholar to himself. If his mind is unsettled, the notes falter. If he is calm, they flow like ink across silk. He returns it to rest not as a relic, but as a friend. There is no deception in its voice, no way to impress without sincerity. He remembers a saying passed down among players. When the heart is right, the strings will sing. He plays a final phrase slow, descending, open. The piece ends not with a climax, but with a return. The last vibration fades into the stone of the courtyard. The air settles. The scholar lowers his hands and bows his head. It returns quietly whenever the heart is quiet enough to hear it. He does not rush to cover the Guqin. The silence now is different. It is not absence. It is echo. Shadows lengthen. The sun slips behind the garden walls. The sky turns pale rose and silver. The scholar covers the Guqin with its silk cloth. He does not feel pride. He feels clarity. His mind is lighter. His body still. The courtyard grows darker. A single lantern flickers to life. As the scholar leaves the courtyard, the melody lingers not in the air, but in his breath, in his posture, in the cadence of his step. He walks not to escape the music, but to carry it. For true music, like true poetry, does not end. And in the fading light, that quiet begins again. To nourish the body with modesty, and the mind with quiet, this too is cultivation. The garden begins to shift. Shadows lengthen, and the light softens into a warmer hue, painting the stone with tones of honey and ash. In the pond, lily pads float undisturbed, and cicadas sing in steady rhythm, like breath made audible. Now his body stirs with quiet hunger, not craving, but invitation. The hour has come for a meal, not of indulgence, but of balance. It is an act of harmony, of alignment between the season, the body, and the state of mind. The scholar has played the Guqin. He has composed poetry and walked his garden paths. He walks slowly toward a shaded veranda where a low table rests, overlooking the courtyard. The breeze is light and the silence companionable. In the Ming literati world, food is not a spectacle. The scholar does not seek lavish ingredients. He seeks freshness, simplicity, elegance. His meal reflects this. A few carefully chosen dishes are placed before him. Steamed lotus root, sliced in pale circles, crisp and earthy. Bamboo shoots with sesame oil, tender, tasting of spring soil and mountain rain. Pickled mustard greens, tart and cooling. Rice, soft and fragrant, served in a small porcelain bowl. And a clear soup of chrysanthemum petals, light as the breath of autumn. There is no meat today, not out of dogma, but out of mood. No bright sauces, no heavy oil. The scholar eats alone, without conversation, and without rush. Each dish is plated simply, but beautifully. White porcelain, jade green glaze, natural textures. He picks up his chopsticks with care. His movements are mindful, not mechanical. The chrysanthemum petals have just begun to open on the garden's southern edge. The bamboo shoots were harvested only yesterday from the shaded grove behind the kitchen wall. With each bite, he pauses, tastes, chews slowly. He does not fill the silence. He listens to it. The flavors are subtle, slightly bitter, gently sweet, a whisper of salt. They do not overwhelm. They invite attention. This time, it is not green tea, but a roasted oolong darker, richer, with a note of charcoal and orchard fruit. To eat in this way is to remember that nourishment is not only for the body, but for the senses, the soul. Every ingredient on the table reflects the season. The lotus root has been pulled from the muddy bottom of the summer pond. The scholar reflects on this quiet cycle. Nothing is hurried. Nothing is forced. In the literati worldview, to eat out of season is to live out of rhythm. To consume without awareness is to lose connection. His gratitude is not spoken, but deeply felt. After the meal, the scholar pours a second round of tea. He drinks it from a larger cup, held in both hands. Where the morning tea invited introspection, this one invites completion. A drawing in, a settling, an invitation to let the mind float. He gazes at the tea's surface. It reflects the slow movement of clouds overhead. The veranda grows warmer. Crickets have joined the chorus. A breeze stirs the leaves just enough to set them murmuring, but not enough to cool the air. The scholar sets his cup down. He lets out a long, quiet breath. The meal is over, but the moment is not. There is nothing more to do now. And that, precisely, is the gift. The scholar retreats to a side chamber, a small room with woven mats, a bamboo window blind, and a low platform for reclining. This is not a bedroom. It is a space for repose, not sleep necessarily, but rest, a surrender of movement. He removes his outer robe and lies down. No pillow, no blanket, only breath and stillness. The breeze lifts the edge of the blind, and a square of sunlight paints the wall, an offering to the heart, a practice of non-doing. He closes his eyes. Outside, the world continues gently. A cicada's song rises and falls. He pours a small cup of cool water. He splashes his face, not to awaken, but to refresh. A heron calls from beyond the garden wall. The faint scent of cedarwood drifts from a carved fan hanging on the door. The scholar does not try to fall asleep. He only rests. In the Ming dynasty, this midday quietude was not idleness. It was a kind of health. Even the sages paused. If he dreams, he does not remember. What he recalls instead is the feeling of weightlessness, of no striving, no shaping, just being held by the moment, like a leaf caught in a still pool. Eventually, his breath deepens. His eyes open slowly, like the aftertaste of tea or the echo of a Guqin note. It is to let time settle around you, like falling dust, like afternoon light. The light has shifted again, the shadows longer, the world slightly dimmer, but no less calm. The scholar rises. He folds his robe. The meal has passed. The rest is complete. He steps back out into the garden, where the evening's hush has begun to gather. The air carries a new tone, not of beginnings, but of return. The scholar reflects. What I have eaten nourishes not only my strength, but my clarity. What I have rested has not taken time, but given it back to me. He does not think these thoughts as words. He feels them. To live well, he knows, is not to chase time. The day does not end. It exhales. The scholar stands at the veranda's edge, watching as the light fades. The garden is bathed in hues of bronze, rose, and soft indigo. A final call of a heron echoes across the pond. Leaves tremble, but no wind follows. Sunset in the scholar's world is not spectacle, it is release. A gentle, inevitable letting go. He does not light a lantern yet. He lets the twilight linger. With deliberate steps, he returns to the painting pavilion, a small room with windows that open on 3 sides. It smells of ink and cedarwood. Scrolls and brushes line the walls. A table, low and wide, sits beside a shelf of pigment stones and porcelain mixing trays. This is not a studio of ambition. It is a sanctuary of reflection. He prepares his materials. A fresh sheet of Juan paper, thick and absorbent. A wide brush for the mountains. A fine one for the mist. Ink already prepared thick as tea. A stone for weighting the paper's edge. No subject has been chosen. The painting will reveal itself. The brush rests in his fingers, not gripped, but balanced. He breathes once, twice, and begins. The first stroke sweeps downward, wide and pale, forming a mountain's shadow. Then, a jagged line sharp, but restrained, becomes a cliff's edge. A few flicks and pine trees appear, clinging to rock like thoughts to memory. Water appears not through color, but space. What is not painted becomes the river, the mist, the sky. This is the essence of Chinese landscape painting, to depict emptiness as vividly as form. The scholar paints not what he sees, but what he knows in quiet moments. The slope of a distant hill remembered from a childhood journey. The twist of a pine he once passed in fog. The idea of solitude rendered as a single thatched hut on a mountain path. He lets the scent of rain enter the room-wet earth, pine resin, stone cooled by water. Each stroke is not a representation, but a meditation. He does not correct or erase. If a line falters, he lets it stand. Imperfection is not flaw his character. A single figure with a walking stick. Trees vanishing into cloud. The room is darker now, but the image is complete. A faint sound interrupts the hush, the first patter of rain on the tiled roof. It is light, almost polite. A summer rain, unexpected but welcome. The scholar smiles. He sets his brush down and listens. The sound deep and soft, percussive, constant. It strikes bamboo leaves like fingertips on silk. He does not close the windows. Rain falls in silver strands just beyond the edge of the roof. Its flavor matches the hour. Deep, grounding. The garden is transformed, stone paths darken. Leaves shine like glass, and the pond dances with expanding circles. Rain, like brushwork, is guided by gravity. It falls where it must. It paints the world in shifting shades. Only this moment. Water meeting earth, light surrendering to night. He returns to the paper. A misty mountain. He places his red seal at the bottom right. It balances the painting's emptiness, his presence, marked by absence. The ink dries slowly in the humid air. The day has painted its own scroll each hour, a brushstroke, each ritual a line of poetry. The garden, once vibrant, now dissolves into shadow. He lets it dry on the table. He does not roll it. It will remain here until morning. He does so quietly, reverently. The rain continues, steady and sure. Like the rain, it will settle in time. The scholar steps outside to the covered veranda. He pours a small cup of aged pour-hay tea, dark, earthy, and warm. He drinks slowly, watching the rain. There is nothing to record, no words to write. As the last of the natural light fades, he lights a single lantern inside the pavilion. Its glow is golden, flickering, small. It does not chase away the dark. It honors it. The scholar tidies his brushes, closes the inkstone, and folds the cloth. He stands at the doorway one last time, gazing into the night. The rain has softened into mist, but he does not feel loss. He feels completion. The garden has spoken all it needed to say, and now only the seal remains. The scholar bows not to a deity, but to the world, to the ink and brush, to the tea and rain, to the willow and the silence. He returns to his quarters, the lantern's glow trailing behind him. No words remain, no sound lingers, only the hush of evening and the breath of the willow whispering to the rain. You have walked the winding path. You have sat with silence. You have listened not to voices, but to space. The garden is now still. The lantern is low. The rain has softened into mist, and the stone paths gleam beneath the night. The scholar's robe now rests on its wooden hook. His brushes are rinsed and set to dry. The tea is finished. The scrolls are rolled. The Guqin sleeps beneath its silk cover. Nothing has been rushed. Nothing has been wasted. Each hour, a brushstroke. Each breath, a line of verse. Each pause, a doorway into presence. You have followed the rhythm of a quiet life, not to escape the world, but to remember how gently it can move. So let the stillness remain. Let it stretch beyond the screen, into your room, your breath, your sleep. If the echo of rain remains with you, if the sway of the willow lingers in your thoughts, then you have not just watched this day, you have lived it. Thank you for walking with us. May your next steps be soft. May your mind return often to the quiet beneath the willow.